I'd say I'd much prefer to stay here because the weather's better. We have an awful lot of rain in Brussels. I'd first of all like to thank your public TV. I think it's great you've taken this initiative, and I think you've done it at a very, very interesting moment in time. Because it's clear that the media world is taking a huge turn at the moment. So it's going to be interesting how we're going to tackle it in the coming days. You have been not very active up to now, but I'd like to actually ask you a question. Could you raise your hand, all of you who already earn a living from journalism? Can I see some hands? Who's making money on journalism? Okay, thank you. And all of you who would like to earn a living as a journalist, could you please raise your hand? Okay. Well, that tells a little bit about the problem. But first I'll go back in time to the year when EU Observer started. EU Observer is called a new media, but the only new about it is that it's only existing on the internet. The rest is actually traditional journalism, classical news reporting. At the time when we started, that was the year 2000. It was those years whenever a company put up a homepage on the web, it was a story in the local newspaper. Now this company or that local authority was having a homepage. That was a story. I had already been a journalist at that time for 10 years, worked as a completely normal newspaper correspondent in Brussels. But I always felt there was something wrong or odd about the way we did journalism in Brussels. I felt that we did not really live up to the great ideals that journalists have of being the fourth controlling power towards the European democratic construction. My colleagues, journalist colleagues from Germany, for example, they would report a new directive from Brussels and see what are the consequences for Germany, for my country. They would report what had the German minister said. The UK journalists, they would look at the British problems, they would scrutinize the British members of parliament, and so forth. But very few media would take like the helicopter view and report what's going on in Brussels from the European perspective and scrutinize the EU as a whole. But with the internet that really became something 10 years ago or 9 years ago, this became possible. So you can say, we actually did it ourselves. We set up EU Observer as a website because we already had European decisions, and now we could get a European media to match the decision makers. And we could even do it without having €1 billion. We could pick up the news in Brussels, we could put it online, and we could have it read in Vilnius or Palermo or Valencia within 1 second. That was news at the time. And we didn't have to spend a lot of money because we didn't have to buy paper, we didn't have to print, we didn't have to distribute. Just put it on the internet and it was out. Now I think that was the first step, but only the first in what is now going to happen, the bigger change, because it's only now where we have an economic downturn that the rest of the media is going to get really affected and that we will see big changes. It's crisis now, but crisis is always also the beginning of something new. So it's not just bad, it's also the beginning of something new. When we started 10 years ago, one of the first problems we had was that a press or news put on the internet was not regarded as press seen from Mrs. Reding's office. So we couldn't get a press card. Even though I had experience of journalistic education, I couldn't get this yellow card. And without this card, you cannot get into the EU buildings. So it was very difficult to do a new news reporting from Brussels when you couldn't even get into the buildings. The Commission said, well, anybody can come to us and claim that now they put something on the internet, so now they're pressed and ask a card. We can't have that. We can't control it. We also don't want lobbyists to get into the press meetings, and yeah, fair enough. Well, it took actually 3 or 4 years to get through this process and get the press card. And I'm wondering if it's not some of the same arguments that you will meet if you turn up in Brussels and claim, well, I'm a citizens journalist. I want to get in and report. What we will see, I think, in the years to come, we see it already now in the US a lot, is that some of the really big, old, classical quality media are going to go out of business because they can't make the money. I think the Boston Globe has been given just 2 months before it may close. And this is one of the world's finest newspapers. Top quality content, great journalism. But there's one problem: this paper is losing something like $1 billion a week. So of course it cannot function. And I think with it, the journalist like me, who has had the classical journalistic career, profession, we will have to realize that our monopoly to the news and bringing it to the people is over. Something new has to happen. The problem for us is, and for you in the future, will be that while people are now slowly accepting that they should pay for music, film, games online, they still don't accept to pay for news. That's something we have for free, we think. And there are no bailout plans prepared for the press. It's apparently only the banks that are deemed to be vital for our society and our democracy. So my question is, how are we going to survive as a democratic Europe if we don't have journalists and great media to work as the fourth controlling power in society? Well, I think maybe the answer can be found, and it could even be found here. That's what I hope for. That's why I came. I think if we put together the best of what the professional journalists can offer with the best that the new media, the new technologies, the citizens journalists, the bloggers can do, if we put this together in the right way, we might be able to establish the new media, the really new media. This is what we have to figure out how to do, because the media, as we've known them, will not have the money to continue. And I think we might even then have better media, because the more people engage, I agree with Mrs. Reding on that, I think that can only be a strengthening of our democracies. We have one good example already online of a model that we may try to copy. That's Wikipedia. That's a good model where you see a handful of professional anchor people together with thousands of volunteers are actually able to make a very good professional product. I don't know if you know Huffington Post. That is an American newspaper, basically a citizens journalism product.